Morning, Darren. I just wanted to wrap up this entire semester by leaving you a video as to my experience in this course that we had with you, and put a few points on the board here. The one thing I'd like to start with that I found this semester to be extremely overwhelming, especially your course itself and what was expected of us. I found there was a lot of coursework this time around, much more so than I've ever had in any other course to date. So it was a struggle to keep up at times, and I did feel like there was just multiple moving parts between the curation tool, writing the blogs, writing the discussions. Pardon me, reading the amount of material that was given to us, responding with all the rise comments, and everything. So it's like everything in between with all of that. So it was a ton, and I don't know if it was because I was moving in my first semester running from day one. That also contributed to that feeling of overwhelmingness. Is that even a word? But it was a lot compared to a Noops class, which had very little work. And I'm not even really sure how a Noop marks per se. You give so much valuable feedback on a weekly basis that helps indicate how well or how poorly that I'm doing or things that I can work on. So I did. I found it very overwhelming. I found it challenging at times to keep up with a lot of the work. I found a lot of your feedback to be challenging. And that kind of ties into my last point here though, is you gave me a lot to think about. And that is exactly I think what I said to you in the first time that we had each other in semester two is I need somebody that's not going to pat me on the back. I need somebody that's going to help me grow. Someone that's going to help challenge me and push me to become better. And that's exactly what you did this whole semester. You challenged me on many things, uh, good and bad, and you helped me see things in a different lens, I suppose. And it really gave me time to sit back and think from time to time. So I very much appreciate that part of it. You provide a lot of clarity, and whether or not it was with that feedback that I agreed or disagreed with, you were very clear in whether or not I met what you were expecting out of uh, my responses or my work or with my curation tool. With my curation tool, I know I'm not one to complain about marks whatsoever. And I thought long and hard whether or not I said anything about this or not, but I do want to share this with you. I know that I got a 9 out of 10 on my curation tool, and I really feel like for the amount of effort that I put into that curation tool, with the amount of magazines that I created, with the amount of information I brought in, and the fact that I actually brought in external information to upload into Flipboard, and then starting a second curation tool, which was my YouTube channel where I could start curating materials through there and producing my own materials for my classroom, I felt a 9 out of 10. I felt like I got cheated out of 1 mark. I don't know why that was a burr in my saddle, but at the end of the day, though, I look at it as you also taught me what can be done with the curation tool and the possibilities that are out there. So if missing 1 mark outweighs the fact that what you brought to my attention, and that's a me issue more than anything else. But clarity, I thought you were very, very clear on what you expected, what I could work on, what I did well, what I didn't do well, and your feedback. As always, you provide so much feedback, and I don't know how you have time or energy to provide that much feedback. I look to some of the things that you have written me, and it is longer than what I've given you as a submission. I don't know how you have the energy for that, honestly. You know, I give feedback to my students in this class, or I give feedback to my peers through Rise comments, and I find it to be exhausting at times. And I'm only leaving 2 to 3, 4 Rise comments in some of these submissions, and you're doing this for 40 plus students just in the singular class alone. I can't even imagine the other classes that you're running and providing this kind of feedback for. I don't know how you do it, man. But I thought it was every time, I thought it was very thoughtful at all times. And I do appreciate it. I can't tell you how nice it is to actually get a legitimate response and a thoughtful response from my professor. And the points to ponder. This was a fun one for me because there was several times this semester you talked about the color of my text bothering your eyes. And at first I don't want to say I rolled my eyes at it, but I'm like, come on, Darren. But as the semester progressed, and it made me think about how we're designing our curriculum materials for learning. And maybe something I'm putting in a PowerPoint or in a video is distracting to somebody, or it is the color of a font, maybe something that somebody struggles with, and it might take them off track. And then I've now lost the spirit of what I'm trying to teach because I did something that would deter my student from soaking in all that information. So I don't know if that was intentional or not on your part. I don't know if you played that up, the fact that certain color fonts bother you, or if that was kind of like a message to me. But either way, it made me think. It made me start to wonder what I'm doing in my lesson planning that might contribute to a disconnect between myself as the educator and my student who is supposed to be receiving and analyzing that information. So it's found it interesting, and I really do want to utilize some of the things that you taught me this semester and put those into practice. I talked about in one of my last entries there that prior to this course, I struggled with designing curriculum materials. We had it with Bonnie, fantastic teacher. I loved it. I loved her energy. I loved the things that she taught. But I think it was because I had not stepped foot into a classroom yet. I had a hard time visualizing, putting a lot of these things into practice. And whether or not it was being in a classroom now that allowed me to start understanding and visualizing and being able to, because I'm very much, I did this when I was in college years ago. I took an HVAC program at St. Clair College in Windsor, and I struggled. And I eventually dropped out. And then years later, I became a sheet metal worker, and I started my refrigeration and air systems mechanic apprenticeship. And it was only after I was able to get my hands on these things, and I'm very much a hands-on learner, but if I'm not able to put things into practice as I'm learning them, I struggle with it. I can't just do things based on theory alone. So I think that's maybe where I struggled in Bonnie's class. Or maybe the way that you laid out this program, this course, allowed me to really analyze things at a slower pace and put some of those things into practice as time went by. Or maybe just some of that experience I learned from Bonnie helped build on my development in this course in terms of that stuff. So either way, I found it very insightful, very beneficial, and extremely helpful to my growth and my development and my knowledge and understanding of this particular subject area in terms of education. And the last thing I wanted to show you, and I don't know if I ever did show you this or not, I'm just going to pull my camera up and over, is my board. And I have my disability awareness infographic here. I have my futures in the skilled trades here as well. I had a couple more that I printed out, but I just hadn't put them on this board yet. I have to rearrange some of this board as well. And I have an old OEAP apprenticeship thing here. I got to get rid of this thing. And this positive space, I was really excited when I came to this school initially. I think I showed you this, that this school is much more inclusive. I would still like to develop something a bit better than this, maybe in the form of an infographic, but we'll see. I just really wanted to show these off to you, that I actually did take these infographics and put them into play in my classroom. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Anyhow, Darren, yeah, I just want to give you a bit of an update, share that with you, tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed this course. I really benefited from how you laid it out this time around. And I'm hoping this is not the last that we get you. I'm hopeful that semester four provides some more interaction, and if not, then I'm going to still keep in touch because I got to say, quite honestly, you've been my most enjoyable professor to date because of how much I think you've connected with my personality and ran with helping me grow. Uh, I don't know. Initially, I kind of I got you were a quirky type of professor at the very beginning of this program, and I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. It was either we are going to bond very well together in my journey of learning, or we're not. And I got to say, I could not be happier with how things have played out. So that's just my quick update, Darren. As to your program, I will provide that feedback. I think you mentioned there's a feedback form at the end of this course that we can fill out, and I'm excited to fill that out. But otherwise, I'm very excited to be done semester three and take a little bit of a break before moving on to the last part, the last leg of this journey until we go back to Windsor. So, anyhow, talk soon, Darren.